the halfway point, the midseason checkup. What is the pulse of the team? Is this the team to beat? Did they just sputter into the All-Star break and lose a series to the Oakland Athletics? Does that mean that we're going to have a tough 10 games back from the All-Star game? It does, but we're not going to necessarily talk about that. Robert Land is here, a Houston sports legend, has been doing sports media for many, many years in this town, has interviewed far more players than I can ever imagine, and he's here to talk Astros baseball with us. He's a big Rockets fan, big Houston fan, so I'm glad y'all stopped in for this mid-season great edition of Locked on Astros, which starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked on Houston Astros, and we are your daily Astros podcast. I'm at Htown Wheelhouse. You can find me at Htown Wheelhouse on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. You can find the show at Locked on Astros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. On Facebook, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you make us your first listen every day. With me, if you're looking at the screen, he is to my right or to your left or wherever you're looking. Robert Land, tell the folks where they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm at HST Podcast. Houston Sports Talk is the show. You can find it anywhere you find your podcast, and also got a YouTube channel. Just look for Robert Land, and it's Houston Sports Talk. You should be able to find it pretty quickly. And just been doing this. Boy, man, I've been doing this for 9 years. I'm about to hit the 9-year anniversary in September. Over 1,000 podcasts. You guys are trying to catch up on me quick, though, doing this thing every single day.
Yeah, we are, and it is a grind. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and get your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So Robert Land, we're here to talk about the Astros and the midseason grades. We got people stopping by. Albert, David, some of our regulars are here in-house. And if you're listening to this, if you haven't gone to YouTube and subscribed to our channel, please do so. You make sure you want to listen to the end of the show. Stick with us, because at the end, I am going to announce the name of the winner of the Jake the Rake Myers bobblehead, and I'll share my screen later. I have the cool little pinwheel I made on the internet. The Enter Googles helped me with that, and we put that together. So everybody who entered, I cut it off Saturday. I even waited till 2 a.m. Saturday morning to get the final list put together. So everybody got a fair shake to get in. That will be neat, and we'll talk to the winner. We will have you DM us, and we'll get in touch and get you that Jake the Rake Myers bobblehead. So without further ado, let's talk about the mid-season of the Houston Astros, okay? Right now, this team sits at 59-32. They are in command of the West, Robert. But now, because of the loss and because of the Mariners' 14th straight win, they are only 9 games above Seattle. Now, they play Seattle in 7 of the first 10 games back. And I don't necessarily want to get off in the weeds in that, but right now, the Astros are about 4 or 5 games for the best record. And the way this team has performed this first half and navigated, I think, the storm of injuries and things they've had to deal with, they've done a pretty good job.
It's hard to complain. I mean, you got one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. You got one of the best relief corps in baseball. You got maybe the favorite for the MVP right now, Yordan Alvarez. Let's get him back healthy and on the field. Not just the MVP, maybe the best hitter in baseball. You've got maybe the best pitcher in baseball, and Justin Verlander. And boy, I mean, what can you say about what Justin Verlander has done? It's just like we've run out of stuff to say. Just an extraordinary thing. And you talk about something that you just couldn't expect. How could you ever expect Justin Verlander to be doing what he's doing right now and leading this staff. And it's that comfort. It's that little blankie that you got, that comforting, nice cup of tea that you go, okay, we got Justin Verlander. He's going to be every fifth day, and he knows what he's doing. He's a professional. He's been doing it forever, future Hall of Famer. And it's you can't argue with much of anything that they've done this year. It's just been an incredible season so far.
It has. So that leads me to the midseason grades for the first half starting pitcher. I guess we could kind of say the starting pitching, and I put on here starting pitcher because I want us to pick the top starting pitcher. I think you might have already kind of delved into that by default because of what he's done this year. But when you look at the staff across the board, for me, the starters, I'm going to give the starters an A for the first half of the season because the starters have gone the distance this season, and they really have. They have one of the best staffs, like you said, in the league. That's what's kept them afloat, even when run production has been down. It's starting pitching that has really towed the line. Right now, they are second only to the Los Angeles Dodgers in earned run average. And when you look at wins, they are, I believe, third right now behind because the Dodgers have 60 wins. Pitching wise, now I don't know if this isn't starters and relief pitchers, but this staff without Lance McCullers has been absolutely dominant.
What can you say? And the best pitcher is Verlander, but Framber, strong runner up, his ERA, his innings, he's become that workhorse. The other thing that this pitching staff has done is they're going deep in games. And you talk about what matters in the postseason. And we know the Astros, it hadn't even mattered, the regular season for the last few years for the most part. They basically won the division easily outside of the COVID year for the last few years. So it comes down to the postseason. And one thing that matters big time is getting that bullpen some rest because the Astros bullpen looks good in the regular season, but they've been worked to death a lot of these years because guys don't get, deep into games, and they're not the only team that's like that. The other thing about the starting pitchers, Christian Javier, if he can go back to not the Javier that we saw the other day that wasn't efficient, but if he goes back to the efficient Christian Javier, then he gets guys out without any problem with the strikeout. And he's a guy that's a dominant pitcher and a guy that with the kind of stuff that you need in the postseason. And it's always been a shame that he's been more of a 2 or 3 inning bullpen guy because I think he's been one of the 3 or 4 best arms on the team for the last few years. And you just got to get him out there and be able to start in the postseason and give you a good 6 innings there. And then you're set up with him and Verlander and Framber.
Because if I asked you who leads the team in strikeouts, Christian Javier, Framber Valdez, or Justin Verlander, who do you think leads? I just looked it up, and I was surprised.
You would probably it would probably be Christian Javier just because it seems like every out he gets is via strikeout.
It is Christian Javier. Christian Javier leads the team with 112 strikeouts. Justin Verlander has 108. Framber Valdez has 102 strikeouts. Framber Valdez has pitched more innings than Justin, but and Christian Javier, get this, has only pitched 78 innings. So 78 innings, 112 strikeouts, 12.9 strikeouts per 9. Justin Verlander's 8.9 per 9. Okay. And this whole, when you start looking at FIP, Christian Javier has the lowest FIP on this team at 292. He has the lowest ERA plus at 120. So you could almost make the case that even though Justin Verlander is in the talk of the Cy Young Award, who's going to get it between him and Shane McClanahan, Christian Javier could almost be the co-MVP if you really look at the value that he's given under the limited amount of innings compared to Verlander. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't know what the deal was, but the last couple of years, I thought, let's get him the innings. Let's prepare him to start because, when you get into the playoffs, you need an arm that just overpowers guys. You that's what you want. You don't want the Zach Greinke's because there's a lot more things that can go wrong when a guy is just throwing to get the ball in play. And, Zach Greinke, Hall of Famer, God bless him, but replacing him with Christian Javier in the rotation, I think is going to make a big difference when they get to the postseason. You got to get these guys healthy. I always say knock on wood. That's always a caveat to everything, but that's the deal. And I want to see he's got it. I want to see him do it the second half of the season. I want to see the consistency where he's doing it efficiently. The efficiency is the big issue because Fromber has gotten way more efficient. We know what Verlander does as far as efficiency goes, and Luis Garcia as well has done a really nice job efficiently getting you a lot of it quietly, very quietly. Luis always does very quietly, but he gets you a lot of innings. Even with the Ramba, he still seems, the Ramba release, he still seems pretty quiet.
Yeah, he does. And that Ramba release, I think the other day, I think it was my mom was asking me, she's like, why? Like, how does he do that? He's the only pitcher. And I said, he just said one day he found a rhythm and it worked. And, whether you're going for a World Series ring, and if you're not on the Astros or you have that engagement ring you need to get, you need to go to BlueNile.com. They're the original online jeweler. And they were the original online jeweler for like high income adults. Now, when I say that, like, I'm not a high income adult. Maybe you are. But the thing is, what they're doing is if you're looking for an engagement ring or fine jewelry, you need to go to the website and you need to become a BlueNile.com customer. Why? Because they want to help you celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of our dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all the prices that you won't find in a traditional jeweler. Notice I said all the prices, not just certain prices. So whatever price point you're at, you tell them your budget, they'll work with you. And we want you to know that the core part of their business is helping you create a one-of-a-kind diamond, and helping you with, you can give them the shape, the size, the clarity, and the setting style. That's right. Their bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? BlueNile.com jewelry experts are on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find your memorable gift at every budget. Do not go anywhere else. Go to BlueNile.com because they are the original online jeweler since 1999. So what I want you to do is I want you to be aware that they have a special going on right now. Make your moment sparkle. And going on with this special, you save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces, 25% on engagement ring settings, plus every order is insured, ships free, and arrives discreet in packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free at BlueNile.com. Now, you're saying, okay, Brett, BlueNile.com, like, I've got the engagement ring, but I need to know, where would I pop the question? I don't know. You probably would want to go to the waterfalls near the Galleria, or maybe you go to Galveston Island. And then afterwards, you want to celebrate with friends. And if you want to take friends and family and just go celebrate, why don't you check out Hooters and NASA? That's right. This place is a great place. It is a great choice for wings, brews, and just hanging out with your buds. TV's everywhere so you can watch the game, whatever sport you want. Eric's favorite are the chicken tenders with teriyaki and curly fries. Mine is a 3 Mile Island buffalo sauce with fries. What is your favorite? Go see what the Hoot is all about. Come hang out with the world famous Hooters girls. Anytime the Astros are playing, you'll hear the action. They pipe the sound right through the speakers so that you can hear the game. So you can hear TK and Blummer and Julia and all the crowd cheer Jordan hit another home run. Don't forget about Thirsty Thursdays. It's called Thursdays. And what about happy hour, or what they call happy owl, from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday? Come hang out with where the Locked On Astros boys hang out and watch the Astros with great grub and brews on I-45 South, exit 528, for great wings and the best service in the world from the world-famous Hooters Girls. They're conveniently located near NASA Value Shopping Center and Baybrook Mall in Webster, Texas. Come see them for lunch, after work for dinner, or to celebrate an upcoming special occasion. 20796 Gold Freeway, Hooters NASA. Tell them the Locked On guys sent you. All right, so we got those out of the way, and so we want to talk about the midseason relief pitcher grades. This relief pitching core has absolutely impressed me 100%. This group right here. You want to talk about my my top two relief pitchers for this season. And Ryan Presley's slowly climbing up there for me because, Robert, he just completed 27 outs, 9 straight perfect innings as a closer. Now, he didn't technically throw a perfect game, but he kind of did, right? Because that's his role. But he's thrown 9 perfect innings in his last 9 outings. He hasn't allowed a base runner. He hasn't walked anybody. He's been getting out. But my two MVPs on this team, and I know some people are saying in the chat that Ryan Stanek bothers them, but Ryan Stanek and Rafael Montero, for me, are the two guys that really stand out. The guy that I would put in there with them that I think deserves recognition is Seth Martino. He gave up a home run the other day, but Martinez, Montero, and Stanek have been wreaking havoc on the opposing hitters. And our bullpen last year was 27th, okay, or 21st. That's why we made the trades we did for Matan and Graveman. And while Matan's been very pedestrian lately, giving up 5 runs in his last 10 innings, these other pitchers have picked up they've picked it up. And when the starting pitchers hand them something, they usually take good care of it.
Yeah, Montero he's my reliever of the year so far. You said it, Presley. He's coming on. Neris and Stanek have been amazing. I can't argue with any of those guys. You know, we're talking on Sunday, Ryan Stanek. He also wins the Open Championship. I don't know if you saw Cameron Young. He's got the dew in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very Ryan Stanek looking guy. Somehow he made it over to win the Open Championship, came back and did a nice job in relief today.
Nice.
But you know, if you look at what Montero's done, I mean, it's like he's in a rocking chair. I have so much confidence. When he comes out there, I'm like, oh, Montero's out there. It's all taken care of. Seth Martinez, I should mention him because his numbers are better than Montero. Obviously, Montero with more innings and appearances and the high leverage situations, but you can't forget about him. I mean, they're so deep. All of these guys have looked fantastic. And yeah, Phil Maton, he struggled a little bit, but is Phil Maton, is he going to last the whole year? Because you could see them go after a lefty reliever, which is something that they probably should do. We saw Sam Mull today with the A's, who's 30 years old. That means you're like 95 in A's years. So get rid of him. You got to go. And so I assume he's going to be on the trade block, and he's got like a 456 OPS or something crazy like that against lefties, or at least that's what it was coming in today against the Astros. Is probably better after today. But if you look at the relief corps, I mean, how could you argue with anything that's gone on? They've just been so amazing. The only concern is, you know, you can't keep this up, can you? I mean, these guys don't have the resume, but you know, outside of Presley, but I mean, geez, they've been fantastic. And give James Click some credit. I mean, he took a lot of garbage for some reason after his first couple of years with what the Astros did. He picks up Montero and he picks up Neris and Stanek, and he does it without costing you hardly anything.
Exactly. And Yimi Garcia's gone. You know, the other guy, Pedro Baez, was supposed to be here, was gone. They took a big $13 million hit for that. But James Click, I think, has navigated these trades really well. And when I even talked to the Locked On Seattle Mariners guys, they were like, yeah, we know what you got in Rafael Montero. Trust us. That's not a big loss. And I'm like, this year, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think they might want to reevaluate their thoughts on Rafael Montero, because ever since he's been here, he's been absolute nails. And the thing that people, I think, have to understand with relief pitchers, and Eric and I have talked about this, is I kind of compare it a lot to maybe closers or back end guys who really are only in for a short amount of time. Is you look at NFL kickers, right? What is an NFL kicker's job? His job is to kick a football between two metal poles, okay? And if he kicks 25 field goals in a row, he's a hero. If he misses one field goal in a game, all of a sudden he sucks, he's terrible, he should be cut, right? A relief pitcher. I remember the other day, someone was like, oh my God, he's trash. He this and he that. And I'm like, wait, this guy hasn't given up a run since May 12th. It was Brian Abreu. They were like, the last 9 outings he's been out, he's been trash. I'm like, he hasn't given up a run since May 23rd. What are you talking about? He's not been trash. He literally, in those time from May 23rd until his last outing, when he gave up the 4 hits and the 5 runs, he only gave up like 4 hits total. He didn't give up any runs, and he only walked 8 batters, but I think he struck out 20. But he didn't give up, like, he had been really excellent. but we have this recency bias when it comes to these pitchers. And what we don't realize is this: with someone like Brian Abreu, he spins the ball so incredibly fast, it's hard to harness it. It's like harnessing, it's like putting lightning in a bottle. And that's what the Astros have focused on for years in their pitcher development is spin rate. When we talk to the minor league pitchers, when I talked to Ryan Stanek 2.5 weeks ago when they were in New York, I asked him what was different this year from all the other years. And he says, well, I feel like I've always kind of been there, but I just, whatever reason, just everything's clicking. I feel better on the mound. I mean, he just talked about how good he feels this year and how confident it is when the team around you is doing well and how that helps their performance. So I think there's this domino effect. And of course, that's where I think people start getting a little worried because they remember last year, they remember before the trade deadline, the issues this club was having. We don't have that this year. And who knows? The Astros may do the thing the Astros fans don't want them to do the most, or they want them to do the least, is they don't want the Astros to stand pat. But Robert, wouldn't it be a very Astros-esque move to not really do anything at the trade deadline?
Not recently. I mean, they've done
Well,
stuff.
True.
They've done stuff. I don't know what to do at a couple of different positions, but it does feel like a lefty reliever is one thing that they're definitely lacking. I mean, that's the thing that you see out there. And Maton, that was his specialty, was getting out lefties, even though he was a righty. And that's one of the reasons they liked him a lot. But he has been a little bit shaky. It's not as bad as I think as some people might perceive it, but yes, he's definitely been shaky out there. The confidence that we have in him is not so much. And you look at his baseball card. Dusty's always talking about, look at the guy's baseball card. Well, I'm sorry, Dusty. Maton's baseball card is way worse than apparently the baseball card that me and everybody else is looking at than the one that you're looking at, because he just keeps running Maton out there like the guy is has been one of the great relievers of all time in the last few years. That's been a sort of a real mystery to me.
He is Dusty's Brooks Raley this year. Brooks Raley was that guy, and that kind of seems characteristic of Dusty. Like, he finds a guy that he likes, and he's like, let's just get him out there. And I remember there was one time, and I forget who it was because I don't want to misquote it. I believe it was Chandler Rome asked the question, "Why did you run him out there?" And he said, "Well, his number against these hitters are better or whatever." And then I don't know if he said it in a tweet or in the actual interview. He said, well, but his numbers are actually not great or something. Like, basically, the Houston media kind of called him on it a little bit. Like, you say that, but when you look it up, it's not showing that, right? So, like, where does that come from? Is that more just a personality thing? Is that what, I mean, do most major league managers kind of try to cover that a little bit where they don't really want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't know what Dusty doesn't do a very good job of explaining a lot of times what his rationale is, and then he just kind of gets mad at people. Like Chandler Rome will bring up something that's a really good point, and Dusty gets mad at it, as opposed to just, hey, give us a real rationale. And the Astros fans, if you give them numbers or at least give them they're not dumb fans, and the Astros come into this after years of success where you've got fans that are smart and they know what to look for. And if you tell them this or that makes sense from a numbers perspective, they're all on board. And that, that's something that, it's not, Dusty's great with communicating with the players apparently, but sometimes he's not so great communicating with the media and Astros fans. And it would help his cause at least a little bit.
So if we were to reduce the first half of the season to July, would you name Martin Maldonado your offensive MVP? I had to throw it out there.
There's some Astros Twitter out there that they make a whole thing out of going after Maldonado, and I think it's somewhere in the middle. It's not as you shouldn't be as confident as the Astros are in him, but you shouldn't be as the lack of confidence that I think some of the Astros fans are. The bottom line is, I mean, you can whine and cry about it all you want to. I don't think they're going to make any big change there. Maybe they go out and get a little bit better backup. Maybe they can just go with Corey Lee. It doesn't matter, because it seems like you go into the playoffs and Martin Maldonado, he's caught just about every inning of the playoffs the last couple of years. So, I mean, that's going to happen. It doesn't matter. But if you want to have a little bit extra on your bench, get a catcher that can hit, that it can at least give you a pinch hit, and you can trust him a little bit. And hopefully we've seen the last of, I love Jason Castro, the person. You always have to go to this. I love Jason as the person, Jason as the player. He's done. He's 35. He wasn't a good hitter to begin with. He's lost it. So, I think we should have seen the last of Jason Castro.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. And I think it was appropriate that the last thing he did as an Astro was hitting the go-ahead home run at Citi Field late in the ball game to help them get a win. And, he kind of goes out on top. And it's like my friend Mark said, the Astros paid him. They paid him these last 2 years. And when you remember 2013, he was the best hitter on the team. He made $500,000. He said that was probably the Astros way of saying, you know what, we appreciate what you did for us back then. Here's some money to kind of like say thank you for your service, because he has been every bit of a great teammate since he's been here. I mean, the camaraderie he has with Tucker, with the guys, the whole stretch thing that Tucker does, that was actually started by Jason Castro. So there are a lot of things that we don't see behind the scenes. But if we're talking about the first half offensive player of the year, it is absolutely 100% going to go to Yordan Alvarez. Yordan Alvarez has had his first half, and it's an absolute shame that he's injured the way he is with his hand. And I hate to hear that he was hurting, but he let it linger on. I don't know if he didn't say anything. I don't know if he didn't report it. But man, Yordan Alvarez, how special is this kid? Because he's not just a home run hitter. He's not a Ryan Howard, or he's not I'm trying to think like a Jim Thome, right? He can mash, but he can hit all over the field. He can spray the ball like a Sean Casey around the field. He's got a swing compared to guys like Carlos Delgado. You know what I'm saying? He's got the sweet, huge power swing, but he can absolutely murder the baseball left, right, center field, and just calm as ever, never upset, never gets mad. I mean, how can you match this guy's talent? I think he's one of a kind.
I said a couple of years ago, he reminds me of a left-handed Albert Pujols. He comes in ready to go, a masher, an incredible hitter right off the bat in his early 20s, and just rock solid. You said so much about what makes him so special, but I mean, you just don't ever get something like this that drops in your lap, and it literally like fell out of the sky, like manna from heaven or something like that. To get a guy for basically Josh Fields, and everybody's like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? I mean, we were waiting and expecting and hoping and wishing for Springer and Correa and Bregman, and Yordan, it's literally out of nowhere.
Exactly. And Dodgers, I mean, how could they have known that this was going to happen? I mean, how could, when the Astros scouted him before they got him in the trade for Josh Fields, the actual Cuban scout told Lunau, you need to get this kid. And Lunau's like, we already got some outfielders. We don't really need any more right now. But he has just been amazing. And you know what, Robert? I really think, and I hate to say this because I'm not saying this to take anything away from Kyle Tucker. If Kyle Tucker had that shift banned this year, I think Kyle Tucker could easily be right there with Yordan Alvarez, average-wise and hitting-wise, because it seems like this shift, the way he swings, the ball goes wherever those gloves are placed strategically in the field. But Kyle Tucker, even though he's only hitting 249, that dude is so scary when he gets up to the plate. I mean, in a year where your defending AL batting champ is totally just not himself. He just looks, everybody's like, okay, Yuli's done. I don't know if Yuli's done. I don't know. Something has got to be mental, mechanical. Bregman flashes of brilliance here and there, but for the most, he walks a lot, but he hasn't been great. This offense hits a lot of home runs, but they don't score a lot of runs. Like, where they're like third or fourth in home runs, they're like 17th in runs scored. Brantley's on the shelf. He's one of your great hitters. Pena's been okay. Altuve, 276. But really, Yordan Alvarez takes the cake in this whole team. And as Yordan Alvarez goes, his teams goes. And I think when he's out or when he's struggling, this team struggles. And you saw it this weekend against the Oakland A's. A lot of guys out, especially Yordan Alvarez. the offense is anemic at times.
Yeah, and I want to mention my most disappointing category because you brought up a couple things that are worth mentioning. Number one, I think there's no question it's Yuli is the most disappointing player, but I want to not focus on that because I think everybody is. We've been talking about that probably most of the year, but to me, the two biggest disappointments. Number one, Alex Bregman's defense. Like I thought when that guy came in, he was a shortstop in college. Bregman with the amount of work that he does and the amount of talent that he has, I thought this guy is going to be a gold glove third baseman. And Alex Bregman has been a disappointment, I think, the last couple of years. It hasn't just been his offense. People have been talking about his offense. And obviously, I think that the injury hurt his defense last year. But even this year, he's healthy, supposedly healthy. And he's just the throws are all over the place. And he doesn't always make the spectacular play that I expect him to make every now and then, and he's not making them as much as he used to. And to me, the other thing, you said it, is Kyle Tucker's average. His offense, you can't argue with. The OPS looks great. But when we got Kyle Tucker in the draft and you saw this guy coming up the organization and he's got a swing compared to Ted Williams, I didn't expect him to be hitting in the 250s. You know what I mean? And I understand there's the shift and everybody's going to there might be some blame on that. And I always hear every year, Kyle Tucker, it's the most hard luck. Well, if you've got that kind of bat control, which he does, and if you're that skilled, which he is, then you got to figure out where to hit it where they ain't. The old wee wheelie killer, hit them where they ain't. And Kyle Tucker is either got to figure that out or, because I don't need this next year. I need you to do it this year because we got a chance to win the whole thing this year. And I want to see a better Kyle Tucker as the season goes along from an average standpoint, because you know what, walks are great, but when there's a guy on second and third and the first base is open and Yuli's not hitting behind you, walk doesn't help us much because Yuli's not doing it like he used to. And that's been a big problem this year.
Yeah, exactly. And since, we're talking about players that are in the MLB and some of these guys like Yordan Alvarez are in the top 50, but if you want to know about the NFL top 50, which NFL stars move the betting line the most starting on July 18th, which is if you're listening to this on Monday, it's July 18th. Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at Bet Online. Available July 18th at Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Go check it out today. And with that mentioned, betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. BetOnline.net remains the best sports spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news. You can find MMA, boxing, golf, all your favorite sports and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game. And if y'all are still listening, you're like, wait, at the beginning of the show, Brett, you mentioned a drawing. You mentioned the bobblehead, the Jake Myers bobblehead. Well, listen, we're going to extend this. We're going to take this to about 38, 40 minutes today because we got a couple more things to talk about. So sit tight. I got the Jake Myers bobblehead. I haven't forgotten about it. So you're going to have to listen. All right. So, Robert, we've talked about the offense. We talked about relief pitching. We've talked about the starting pitcher. Let's talk about defense. Guys like Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena, one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates, but has a ton of errors this year. You had mentioned Alex Bregman with the throwing errors and things like that. We've seen lately Jake Myers muffing a lot of balls to center field, it seems like, looking up before he's actually got the ball in the glove. Just kind of sloppy baseball. There was an error by Odorizzi, the throw, which wasn't counted as an error, counted as an infield hit. And you and I both disagreed with the scorekeeper on that. There are a lot of things that are going on in the field that seem that this team's a little bit more disciplined. What kind of defensive grade would you give this team? Would you give them a B or even as low as a C on defense so far? Or do you think overall they're still in A or B range and we're nitpicking?
If you look at the defensive metrics, I think they're upper half of the league, but it's not, top five, what we expect from the Astros. And, again, you just mentioned it. It goes to Bregman and Pena, the left side of the infield, to me has been something that's a real concern. I mean, Tucker's been incredible in right field. Altuve gives you about what he's given you. we're not seeing the Gold Glove defense that we saw from Yuli last year. It's not as disappointing that his offense has gone away. The thing that's more surprising to me is like you can see a guy getting older and the offense dropping off, but the defense all of a sudden taking this big plunge has been an issue. But the Jeremy Pena thing is the most concerning thing to me because I don't know how much I trust him in the playoffs when the balls hit his direction. And I watch his throws to first base, and there isn't a consistency in his form. And maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know what you think about that. But when I watch him make the throw to first base, it just doesn't look like he's doing it the same way every time. And there's not the confidence. It seems like somebody needs to be working with him, and nobody has, because we are coming in. Jeremy Pena is going to be this incredible defensive player. And frankly, I don't see it because the throws to first are a major factor when you're a shortstop.
So I was talking to Eric about this, and I was actually, he was funny. My mom came over this weekend, and she got to see my son play, and she hadn't been able to see him play all year. That was really neat, and she loves the Astros, and we talk Astros baseball, and heck, she may be listening right now. But she said, we were talking about Jeremy Pena, and I said, Mom, I said, Jeremy Pena, I love this kid. Like, he's a competitor. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He grinds, he's got a great bat, but his footwork is atrocious at the shortstop position. We know that he's not as good laterally as Carlos Correa was. Carlos Correa made everything look smooth. Okay. And I always use this comparison. When I was teaching at Second Baptist years ago, we had a kid named Billy Arndt. He was a baseball, he was a USA baseball player. He played at Princeton on a scholarship, played all 4 years there. Great kid. Well, Drew Stubbs had just been drafted by the Reds and came by the Second Baptist field. And I was watching these all-state, these all-American baseball kids take practice. And I thought, man, these kids are good. But when Drew Stubbs hit the field, it was a whole different level of good. It was a whole different level of fluidity, right? And so when you're in the pros, like when you look at the guys that are the Trey Turners, these guys that are studs, the Bogarts, and you see this fluidity and this smoothness, I just feel like, and I don't know if Jeremy Pena is too bulked up and not flexible enough, and if that's what messes with his footwork. But if you notice, a lot of the shortstops and a lot of the infielders that have fluid motions, they're not tanked out with muscles. They're flexible. They're a lot less muscular. If you understand, like, I mean, go back and look at Adam Everett, y'all. Go back and look at this. Adam Everett needs to come down and work with
I was
Jeremy
thinking the
Pena.
exact same thing. I
I
was
mean,
thinking when you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. We have one of the best defensive shortstops in the last 30 years that was in the
yeah,
Astros organization. And
and
it's
and
not
I
like
just
he wouldn't come to the ball. He's been to I've been there when Adam Everett's been to the ballpark. He will come out there.
And that's the thing. And I don't think it's because he's unathletic. I think it's because he's such an athletic specimen. I mean, if you ever seen this guy with his shirt off, I mean, the dude is a rock. He looks like a bodybuilder. And if he's that muscular, if anybody knows anything about building muscles, the more muscles you have, the more muscular you are, the less flexibility you have. I mean, Carlos Correa was built, but he wasn't ripped up and shredded like that, right? He had a fluidity. And like, if you go back in the NFL, you go back to the 80s, like I remember hearing about Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice took ballet to remain flexible as a wide receiver, right? Like he had that flexibility. And so I'm just wondering if something like that needs to change in his workout regimen as he gets older to keep him a more consistent defensive player. Because to me, if he's truly a student of the game, like he comes across, he's going to have to make some adjustment. I mean, he has 13 errors right now. That's kind of like what Fernando Tatis did in his second year, where he had like 14, 15, 16 errors.
This is
And
the same amount of errors that Carlos Correa has had in his last 4 years combined. That's 13 errors. Yeah.
And that's insane. So he needs work there. Okay. I do like his attitude. I think he's an asset to the team overall, but the glove, the footwork, it does need work. And I think defensively, I might give him a C on the season just because I think the potential to get better is there. But hey, let's bring it at, you know what? Get on the phone today. Let's call Adam Everett and let's get this thing worked out. Hey, real quick, and I want to go ahead and do this because I'm going to forget about it if I don't. I got a Jake the Rake Myers bobblehead right here from the Space Cowboys, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys and girls, and so y'all will see this wheel pop up. You're going to need to let me know, Rob. Give me a know if this actually gets shared. Okay, can you see the spin wheel?
Yes, I can. It's there.
Okay, good deal. All right, so we got the spin wheel here. We got all these names. I'm not going to say them all. You can see them. Someone had a no name because they emailed us and it was their phone number, and I didn't put all your digits so we didn't steal your name. So here we go. I've never spun this wheel. Do I just click on? Oh, here, click to spin. All right, this is literally one spin. I'm not doing 5 or 10 or 3. We're doing one spin.
Where's Vanna White when you need her?
Right. Oh, it's the no-name guy with the phone number. All right, let me take a screenshot of this. Let me snip this. And man, who would have thought that it was the guy I even mentioned as the one that didn't have a name? That's craziness. So for those of y'all that entered, if your name wasn't put in there, I'm sorry. But here we go. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to save that. Here we go. I'm back. All right, so no name won the Jake Myers, no name. I will have to email that guy. Phone number. I'm going to put phone number guy over here. He won. Or girl. Thank you. Wallace says or girl. Yes, guy or girl. Man, woman, child, baby. I don't know. We didn't put an age limit. So, you could have entered your toddler son's email if he has one. But that's what we do here at Locked on Astros. So I will contact them. We'll have some other giveaways. I actually have we have a Bregman jersey I'm going to give away. We've got a World Series ring we're giving away around the playoffs. We got some other things going on. So, and stay tuned. We have some Facing Nolan posters as well that the production company sent to us. But those will have to be handed to you at the stadium because I'm not paying $18 to mail you a free poster. So, Robert, let's wrap this up. Astros going forward, do you think they make a big deal at the trade deadline? Yes or no?
I don't know if it's a big deal, but I expect at least a couple of small deals. And I would have told you maybe a week ago, I was a little bit more okay with them sticking with Yuli and Jake Myers. I'm now a little bit on the fence. Give me a couple more weeks to really make my judgment as far as that. Like I said, it seems like a lefty reliever is got to happen. The backup catcher, I don't know. I don't know if they care to give up actual things for that, but maybe you can just do that real cheap if it's somebody out there that's a veteran. It doesn't take much to be a better hitter than Jason Castro. So to get some improvement is just getting in anybody else that's in the major leagues, basically, isn't it? Anybody else would be better offensively.
I hear you. Yeah, I just don't know what the Astros are going to have to give up. Tuesday night, we have a trade show coming on that Eric and I pre-recorded. We have some trades that were given to us by listeners. We went through those trades. We came up with some trades on our own. Juan Soto's name even comes up. I'm not going to tell you what we said about him, but you're going to have to watch Tuesday night to find out. It's going to premiere 8:30. The All-Star Game's going to be on. Most of the Astros that are playing are probably already going to be playing, so you can pull up YouTube and watch it. Why not? I mean, who wants to watch an exhibition game anyways when you can watch Locked on Astros talk about real things in real time? And Monday night during the Home Run Derby, I'll be doing a Spaces with that Astros girl on Twitter, so hang out with us, check out that, and just all the action. And I gotta double confirm. I got a big guest coming Wednesday night. I'm not gonna out his name right now, but we've had him before. He's a fan favorite. I'll just give you a hint. He's a Houston guy and he's a baseball guy. And he's supposed to be coming on Wednesday. I just got to confirm on Monday. So thank you for tuning in to Locked on Astros. Remember, we are always your team every day. This is Robert Land with Houston Sports Podcast. Tell them where they can find your podcast one more time before we wrap it up.
The podcast is Houston Sports Talk. If you're watching the video, you see that's at HST Podcast. If you're listening, just at HST Podcast, just look for Houston Sports Talk on Twitter, and it's the HST Podcast is the handle. And we do stuff weekly, and recently I've been putting out a bunch of shows. So I had 3 podcasts in the last week, including with Jimmy Price. I know a friend of yours with Astros Future expert and prospects, and we went through what's going on with the minor league system. So that's worth going to check out. We're gonna have an Astros guest this week that's somebody new Very interesting story, incredibly interesting story that's connected with the Astros and the franchise. And yeah, you're definitely going to want to check that out. But it was good to talk to you. So
Yes,
much
sir.
fun to be on the show. And Locked On means a lot to me. I spent a couple of years doing Locked On Texans, so I was part of the network myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's always great to bring you on. I love your voice. I love your knowledge. I love that you are Houston sports, and so Robert Land, I appreciate it. Robert Land, Houston sports legend here. Thank you so much. I'm Htown Wheelhouse for Eric the Man Heisman, for myself, for Robert Land, and all of us at Locked On Astros Nation. Remember, we are your team every day. Go Stros.